What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here. After countless comments and subreddit posts, I am going to be reacting to the trial of Tim Heidecker. At first, I thought this would be a real trial, but upon clicking on it, it is an Adult Swim show, so I have no idea what to expect. It is apparently a murder trial, the Electric Sun 20 murder trial, and it's broken up into multiple days or episodes or days of trial. I don't know. Let's just jump right into it.
At this time, the court calls the people of the state of California versus Timothy Richard Heidecker, case number 02CF025. Defendant is charged with...
I hate to stop it so soon, but do not do that. I assume that's Tim Heidecker. If you were called, it's not a good thing that you're there. You're charged with murder. Heidecker, partner in THC vape systems, Luther Sanchez, killed himself in jail following the festival death. And so Tim Heidecker, before opening statements even begin, he's high-fiving his buddy. What do you think the jury's going to think about that? Ridiculous.
Counts 1 through 20 of second-degree felony murder under Section 541B of the California Penal Code.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning.
Okay, so second-degree felony murder. That means he killed somebody in the course and scope of a felony. Doesn't necessarily mean that he had the intention to kill somebody. It means that he was committing a felony, and that felony caused the death of somebody. Remember, with felony murder, you do not need the intent or the malice to actually kill somebody, so long as you were committing the underlying felony that resulted in a foreseeable death during the course and scope of said felony. You committed felony murder. I'm sorry for pausing so much. Hopefully we can stop that.
Good morning. We're going to be spending some time together over the next few days to answer one simple question. Did Timothy Heidecker is Timothy Heidecker a killer? He filled the lungs of his innocent victims with a chemical cocktail which he knew to be toxic. You're going to learn about the Electric Sun Desert Music Festival, an unpermitted, illegal, chaotic event operated by Mr. Heidecker. An event that you will learn was a fraudulent commercial scheme. Mr. Heidecker repeatedly, misleadingly, and fraudulently referred to Mr. Sanchez as Dr. Sand. You think Dr. Sand, it's such an endearing term. It's almost someone that I'd bring my children to. These children trusted Dr. Sand and Mr. Heidecker when they bought those vaporizers at the Electric Sun Music Festival from them. We will also ask witnesses to testify as to the moral character of Mr. Heidecker. Or maybe I should say amoral. And fulfill your duty to see that justice is done and Mr. Heidecker is convicted on all charges.
20 kids dead. All.
Okay, so the opening statement was actually fairly realistic. What we know so far, we know that these 20 individuals died via a defective or a poisonous vape. There was some music festival, which I think Tim Heidecker ran. So maybe he was selling the vapes at his music festival, and the vapes were poisonous and these kids died. Which, if the music festival was not allowed and he didn't have a license to sell these vapes, or these vapes were fraudulent vapes, you know, they were underground vapes, they weren't regulated vapes, that is definitely a felony. So the felony was selling those vapes, having those vapes, selling those vapes, and they caused the underlying death, hence felony murder. And with respect to the opening statement, that's exactly what an opening statement is. An opening statement isn't admissible. It's not showing evidence. It is telling the jury what you are going to show them. Oftentimes, opening statements start out with, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we believe the evidence will show the following, and then you walk them through what the case is going to be about. So here, even though these are just the highlights, the prosecution went through what they're going to show. They were going to show that Tim Heidecker created a music festival that was a fraudulent scheme. He was an accomplice of somebody who they called a doctor who wasn't a doctor, which means that the kids probably thought the product was safe in some form, and it caused the death of these 20 individuals, and they're going to bring people to testify about how bad of a person Tim Heidecker is. That was actually fairly realistic. Now let's listen to the defense's opening statement.
As a result of the misdeeds of a madman. He called himself Dr. San. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, there is a 21st victim of Mr. Sanchez, my client, Timothy Heidecker, a man whose only crime was believing in himself and in his young fans and wanting the two parties to get together at this ambitious and benevolent music festival. Mr. Heidecker, in fact, since the tragic death of his own son, little Tom Cruise Heidecker, has devoted himself 100% to making the world a better place through his music and the poetry of his lyrics. Now let's honor the memories of the Electric Sun 20 and make sure that Timothy Heidecker does not become victim.
This mugshot. So I guess that's Dr. Sanchez. So this is actually pretty fairly accurate defense as well. The defense's job is to disassociate themselves with Luther Sanchez. They're painting him as the criminal and Timothy as another innocent victim who got wrapped up in Luther Sanchez's scheme. Look at his mugshot. Oh no, my lights turned out. Let's keep going.
And make sure that Timothy Heidecker does not become victim 21. Let's make sure that this innocent man walks free.
I only saw 3 porta potties there, and later I heard that one of those overflowed, so they locked it. And then people...
Before we move on to the first witness, the trial itself, something interesting about opening statements, about the theory of opening statements with respect to criminal trials. So the defense, has the right to reserve their opening statements until after the prosecution has rested their case. In the old days, this was the norm. You would let the prosecutor do the opening statement and then proceed into their case in chief. After all, it is their burden of evidence to prove the case. However, this was a huge mistake. And whether you like it or not, juries make up their mind relatively quickly. And the opening statements can be very persuasive. So how does it look to a jury if the prosecution gives an opening statement and then just pounds on their evidence for days and days and days? By the point in time the defense gets up to say something, the jury's mind might already be made up. So over the last 30 years or so, the prominent and dominant and correct theory for trial defense or criminal defense trials is after the prosecution gives their opening statement, the defense immediately follows and gives their opening statement to confront the prosecution's statement and paint their own picture. In addition to all of that, it is the defense attorney's job to condition the jury. He should have already done this in voir dire, but maybe you add something to the effect of, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as I stated in voir dire, my client Tim Heidecker might not be taking the stand during this trial. That is his Fifth Amendment right to not speak. That doesn't mean he's guilty. Additionally, it is the defense attorney's job in voir dire and maybe in the opening statements to condition the jury that the defendant is not going to testify, because 99% of the time it is in the defendant's best interest to not testify in their own trial, even if they are innocent. And that's because, quite simply, the prosecutorial mind can make anybody seem guilty. You went home to change your clothes after a long day of work. Oh no, you changed clothes because there was blood on the clothes. You did this because it is part of your everyday routine. No, you actually did that because it was convenient for you to get away with the murder or whatever. You get the point. Obviously, I'm exaggerating and having fun, but it is true. The prosecutorial mind can make anything seem guilty. That is why this is a protection given into the Constitution, and jurors cannot consider a defendant's lack of testimony or refusal to testify as evidence against them. Okay, let's move on to the state's case in chief.
People started squatting and peeing next to the stage because there weren't any trees or bushes or anything that they could go behind for privacy. The sound.
We have a fly in the room.
How do you know that the defendant was the person you remember being there?
I forgot him.
And why is that?
He ran over my friend's foot with a golf cart.
Wow. Your witness?
Your Honor, I have no questions for this witness at this time.
You're excused. Thank you, Ms. Soroki.
There was one
Interesting
table
choice. Usually
with
you want to...
some Austin peanut butter crackers laid out, but it was open to everyone, so
So the only food you saw was water and peanut butter crackers.
that's correct. And I only got like one puff of it before it started leaking on me, and
Okay, what the prosecution is trying to do with these first two witnesses is paint this festival as a total shit show. It was unorganized, it was chaotic, there wasn't food, there wasn't water, there weren't restrooms. So I'm guessing Tim Heidecker was the organizer of this festival, which probably was just a disaster, as a felony. It's kind of like that the fire festival or whatever it's called.
it got all over my joggers and kind of ruined my pants. And when I was trying to fix it to see what was wrong with it, it kind of just broke apart, and there were no trash cans at the festival, so I put the pieces on the ground and covered them with dirt. What I experienced was like burning in my lungs. I felt the juice go all the way down through my throat, and I started getting very sweaty after that. I started having trouble breathing. Someone who was falling down and twitching, and then I saw someone else try to run up and help them, but she was just falling over and having muscle spasms. And I saw this happening to multiple people. Some of them were foaming out of the mouth. I just remember the sound of the music playing, DKR singing empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle over and over again, and I'll never forget that sound. I thought they would see this and stop the festival, but they just kept playing. In the parking lot, we did hotbox in my car.
Can you tell the jury what you mean by doing a hot box?
That's where you smoke a lot of weed, and the car is full of...
So what the defense is trying to do here is say that this was not what happened at the festival. This was not the vape. This was, he was messed up, or these people were messed up before they got to the festival. But overall, I'm surprised about how accurate this is. This witness was called to testify about his personal experience. He's clearly a victim, although he didn't die. He suffered damages from the smoke inhalation of the vape, and he has first-hand accounts of seeing people have issues with the vape that he also smoked.
the fumes.
This is,
Okay.
we need
Your
to go
Honor,
further?
could you direct the witness not to...
I'm asking if we need to, I'm sorry.
Mr.
but-
Heidecker, please allow your counsel to speak for you. That's what he's being paid for.
Well, you're not doing your job.
Mr.
you're not-
Heidecker,
Okay.
Here, well,
And also, why isn't he bringing up, I'm sorry.
Mr. Heidecker, would you like us to add a contempt charge to what you're on trial here for today?
Yes. So when you said that you looked around and didn't see security, isn't it fair to say that your senses were impaired the moment you stepped on those grounds?
I would say that with my experience with marijuana, I was able to remember things accurately.
There were two large
yeah, it's not looking good for Tim. You shouldn't bash your lawyer in public. If you have issues with what your lawyer's doing, you need to communicate that with him or her in private. The jury is seeing everything. And like it or not, the jury does have implicit bias. They gauge you on your body language. They judge you on how you act, such as those type of outbursts.
Moving vans parked in front of the entrance, so we were not able to get in.
Okay.
They were illegally parked in a fire lane. When we first got to the scene, there were multiple casualties, at least a dozen at first. We were referred to Dr. San, but he did not appear to have any medical capabilities, nor did he seem to be coherent.
Now, was Mr. Sanchez attempting to help the injured?
He did give one of the injured some water, but otherwise he was just placing crystals around the bodies.
I'm sorry, crystals? What do you mean?
Crystals like you would buy at a gift shop. He was placing them around the bodies of the deceased.
Did you make any efforts to find any other entrances?
To our knowledge, there was not any other entrance where we could have gotten our truck through.
Do you notice there's a pedestrian entrance just a short distance from the vehicle entrance?
Yes, sir, but we would not have been able to get our truck through that entrance.
Whoa. Okay, before we address that, because I was just trying to pause it. Alright, Heidecker organized music festival and distributed vaporizer pins linked with 20 deaths and over 100 hospitalizations. Okay, so he is the organizer of the festival, which we already knew, and he distributed these vape pins, which we already knew, but now, I guess, we've officially confirmed. Now what they're saying is these vehicles blocked the entrance so ambulances couldn't get in. So they couldn't get in to help the people who were injured by the vape pens. And it's important to note that this alone might be a felony. Let's just say Tim had nothing to do with the vape pens that caused the injuries, and he was only in charge of the festival itself. If he failed to maintain a safe premises and failed to get permitting and follow safety ordinances for emergency vehicles and emergency exits or entrances, that very well might be a felony in and of itself, because it's foreseeable when you have a big concert that somebody's going to have a medical emergency, and when that medical emergency happens, you need the ability to get to that person quickly. So I think that there are probably multiple avenues in which Tim can be convicted.
Yes, sir, but we would not have been able to get our truck through that entrance.
Fucking ground.
Mr. Heidecker, you are that close. You are that close.
Approach the bench.
Tim's gonna get thrown in jail for contempt. First of all, you always stand when you speak to a judge. Never speak to a judge from your seat. Always stand if you're gonna ask to approach the bench. And he is causing loud outbursts, saying profanity. He's gonna get himself thrown in jail for contempt before he gets probably convicted of murder.
No, you may not approach the bench.
All right, I think we need a brief recess.
Yes.
I certainly agree. We are in recess.
Thank you.
Alright, so this is actually pretty interesting. It's pretty accurate. Obviously, Tim Heidecker is a very emotional character and over-exaggerating things, and his disdain for his lawyer is a bit too vocal. The jury's going to pick up on that, and that's not really a good thing for him. But this is somewhat realistic. Opening statements were relatively realistic. Case in chief was realistic. It's still the prosecution's case in chief. They started out by presenting evidence that the festival was chaotic, not clean, unsanitary. Then they brought in the paramedics, said that they couldn't get in to help these people. I anticipate tomorrow they're probably going to bring in something about the vapes that they were smoking, and probably some testimony about Tim's character and Dr. Sanchez's character. And yeah, I don't know, fairly interesting. We're gonna have to do another part to this video, or I guess however many days this trial is, that's how many videos I'm gonna do. So that's it for today's video. Please make sure you hit that like button, consider subscribing to this channel, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.